Well, as the Trump team ramps up its so-called war on the cartels, President Trump's expected to sign an executive order this afternoon seeking a rebrand of the Department of Defense. He is going to rename it the Department of War. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin joins us with all the details from the Pentagon. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Jillian. Well, fun fact, in 1947, after World War II, our nation's leaders changed the name of the War Department to National Military Establishment, or NME. They soon realized that acronym sounded too much like enemy and changed it to the Department of Defense 2 years later. In just 2 hours, President Trump will sign an executive order reviving the Department of Defense's former name, the Department of War, a name that was dropped after World War II because a war-weary nation did not want to intervene in conflicts overseas. George Washington founded the War Department in 1789.
Why are we defense? So it used to be called the Department of War, and it had a stronger sound. And as you know, we won World War I, we won World War II, we won everything. We had an unbelievable history of victory when it was Department of War. Then we changed it to Department of Defense.
My understanding at the time was that there was a lot of reticence in the United States to be recognized or seen in the world as a warmongering nation. And there was an intentional attempt to withdraw from that perspective and to recalibrate people's understandings and expectations of the United States power and our ability to project that power.
William Lyons served in the Army Reserve for 31 years and taught national security strategy at Norwich University.
There was this idea that economic power was going to propel the United States' role in the world going forward, and that the term Department of Defense more accurately reflected these new instruments of power. So the thought process at that time reflected these cultural values in the United States.
The name change is more about perception than reality and still requires the approval of Congress. The new Secretary of War, Hegseth, wants to rename the Pentagon briefing room from Public Affairs to, quote, Pentagon War Annex. That briefing room has largely been empty and not used for any briefings, except one since January following the Iran strikes. If the U.S. military launches a war against Venezuela, as the current military buildup in the Caribbean suggests, hopefully the Pentagon will return to holding briefings in the so-called War Annex. Jillian?
All right, Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon for us. Thank you.
The House of Representatives passed its version of Congress's annual defense bill on Wednesday evening, albeit along stunningly partisan lines. For decades, the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, has seen support from a majority of Democrats and Republicans. That's changed in recent years, however, and the trend appears to have continued with the fiscal year 2026 bill. The legislation passed 231 to 196 after a lengthy series of votes, with 17 Democrats voting in favor and 192 against. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, D. New York, and other top Democrats opposed the bill. Democratic lawmakers had spent hours beforehand railing against GOP-led amendments on mainly transgender issues, including several which were successfully voted into the bill. Multiple amendments by Representative Nancy Mace, RSC, for instance, placing limits on spaces that transgender service academy cadets can access, passed along mostly partisan lines. Another amendment by Representative Jimmy Patronis, R. Florida, aimed at eliminating the preference for motor vehicles using electric or hybrid propulsion systems and related requirements of the Department of Defense, passed with mostly Republicans, although 6 Democrats joined in approving it as well. Representative Corey Mills, R. Florida, introduced an amendment aimed at preventing pride flags or other ideological banners being displayed on military installations, which also passed along nearly partisan lines. Representative Adam Smith, D. Wash, the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, announced on Tuesday that he would vote against final passage of the bill if certain GOP-led amendments made it into the final piece. Smith also ripped Republicans for not allowing House-wide votes on solely Democrat-led amendments in the bill, all of which were filtered out when the House Rules Committee was considering the legislation earlier this week. There are a number of problematic amendments included in the rule that focus on divisive topics, rather than strengthening our national security. Should these amendments be adopted, I will vote against final passage of the bill, Smith said in a statement. For 65 years, the passage of the National Defense Authorization Act has been a testament to shared respect for the duty of Congress to provide for the common defense and to place the needs of America's national security and national defense above politics. The rule undermines this long-standing tradition by failing to include meaningful amendments offered by Democrats to address critical issues. Representative Sarah Jacobs, D. California, earlier spoke out against the amendments targeting transgender issues as well. Many people in this body have received gender-affirming care. Filler is gender-affirming care. Boob jobs is gender-affirming care. Botox is gender-affirming care, Jacobs said. It prompted an angry response from Mace. That is ridiculous. You are absolutely ridiculous. 4 Republicans voted against the bill in addition to the dozens of Democrats, including Representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene, R. Georgia, and Thomas Massie, R. Kentucky, longtime skeptics of foreign aid funding in the NDAA. Democrats who voted in favor of the bill include Representatives Jared Golden, D. Maine, Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, D. Wash, Don Davis, DNC, Henry Cuellar, D. Texas, and Vicente Gonzalez, D. Texas. The NDAA is an annually passed bill that sets defense and national security policy goals for the U.S. The Senate is expected to consider its own version of the bill as well, after which the 2 chambers must compromise and consider them again before they get to President Donald Trump's desk for a signature.